So they must really like her. Yeah, so that was good. Nice group. Everyone's trying to simplify. Simplify, simplify. Tanya had her kickoff day today too, and that was last year. But yep, they opened it last year, but it wasn't done. Done. It wasn't done. Done. Yeah, because they moved into it, but it wasn't done. Yeah, because the old school was still up, and they were still knocking it down. Oh, did they? Yeah, that makes
Big
sense because they
scissors or
weren't
regular
working on it all
size?
year.
These big scissors are regular size.
Big scissors.
Do they? Okay.
Silver.
Lane?
They have a silver shovel when you're done.
Do they?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Hard hat. Okay.
Yeah. Everyone wears hard hats.
Good. How are you?
Ellen. Don't shut my hotspot down, Ellen. The only thing I got. Don't shut down my hotspot. It's the only thing I got. I can't get on my I brought
Commodore 64.
Hey, happy back to school. You're going back this weekend? Yep. Work fun.
Yeah, 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 sure.
The Jets
Who's the keynote?
conference. The keynote this year is at 8 through 10. Yeah.
You will. How are you?
Good, how you doing, Jeff?
Good. How was Idaho? Yeah, I bet.
It was awesome.
You recommend that place then?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Was it like a dude ranch thing or?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
The only thing we did when we went like off campus was to go fly
Fly
fishing.
fishing? Right. That's lousy. I hate to do that.
You didn't hide in your suitcase?
No, no.
That a couple years ago.
Oh,
The dude ranch. Oh, the dude ranch. Yeah.
No?
We're trying to do it next year.
I think they'll go now. They're a little bit older. This is a reorganization meeting, is the first part of the agenda. I'm going to call the meeting of the Medfield School Committee to order Monday, August 28th, 2023 at 7 o'clock. First order of business is reorganization of school committee roles. I will take a motion or entertain a motion for chair of the school committee. Okay, any other nominations for chair of the school committee? Second. All those in favor for Tim as chair?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, Chair, take it over.
Okay. And I think we need to go through all of those.
Yes.
Okay, so, and I would like take nominations for vice chair.
I nominate Michelle Kirkby for vice chair.
Second the nomination.
Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Fine.
I nominate Kristen Simonini.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Recording secretary.
I nominate Leo Brown.
Second. I second it. Any other nominations? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And is there any others? Officially, I forget. Yeah.
Yeah, it's those four.
Okay. Oh, that's good. Thank you. And for anyone listening, we, according to our policies, we do this at the first meeting of the new year. And we have done a reorg in March. So we think, generally speaking, we have good momentum going, and we're excited for the new year. That's why it was a really simple process. On the, we're going to go through first the consent, no, let's take public input. So we're going to take public input. Members of the public will be welcome to comment during public input, either here in the room or through Zoom. If you are on Zoom, please raise your Zoom hand, and in either case, you're either going to come up and state your name and address, or if you're on Zoom, we ask that you put your camera on and state your name and address. We ask that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking for no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of the school committee. So do we have any public input? Nobody in the room? Do you see anyone in Zoom?
If anyone on Zoom would like to give public input, please raise your hand.
Okay. Assume no public input. Next is the consent agenda. I think maybe Dr. Marsden, you said we'll hold off on, or just donations. You want to speak to that?
Sure, I wanted to actually go through each one of the bullet points on the consent agenda, other than the minutes. There's a couple of things I'd like to highlight in the donations as well. First of all, we have Anne-Marie Tremblay and Ryan Dexter here from our music department that want to discuss and go over the music trip approval, which is scheduled for March 2024. And then there's significant donations that I want to share with you. $1,000 from the Medfield Music Association to the Medfield High School gift account for the auditorium sound system upgrade, which is extremely generous. We appreciate that. At the last meeting, I mentioned that MCPE has the anniversary appeal grant, and they gave us a check for $100,000, where each school received $20,000 in their school gift account. So we really appreciate that, and all the folks that gave to that, which is really something special. And again, it's going to be used in each school, dedicated to a project that MCPE approved. And then the last one, Ashland Public Schools just built a new elementary school, a 345 building, and our art department was looking for new art tables that are made just for art rooms. They're just big, wide block tables. Ashland was getting rid of them because they were building a new school, and they donated them to us. Our staff went, picked them up, and now they're in the Dale Street School. So I want to just publicly thank the Ashland Public Schools for that as well. That's all I had, Mr. Chair, on that.
Okay. Do we want to go, do you guys want to speak about the music trick? We're just going to, if you're following the agenda, we'll go bottom up, donations and then music association, tech.
Hi, everybody. My name is Anne Marie Tremblay, and Ryan Dexter is here as Director of Bands. We are here because we are seeking approval for a trip for our jazz band and our jazz choir to New Orleans this March, as Dr. Marsden had mentioned. And we did our first trip since COVID last year as a whole department. The band, chorus, and orchestra went to New York City for 4 days, and we had a fantastic experience with our students. And so we're looking to start alternating again, having the off years be our audition ensemble music trips. So 5 years ago, in 2000, actually 4 years ago, in 2019, I took the jazz choir to New Orleans. And we are looking to have the jazz band join us this year to return to that historic place as the birthplace of jazz. We have really a very strong program in our jazz groups, and so we think this is the perfect time to get the tradition up and running again. We surveyed the parents, and there seems to be a very strong support from them as of last spring. So we'd like to continue with our planning with your consideration.
I just have one question. So it says that it's allocated for 50 students, it looks like. Is that like a general target, or have you actually, like, you anticipate 50 students being there? Like, would you take more, or would it be less? Okay.
know for sure, but that's the estimate.
You calculated us in that too, right?
Yeah.
It sounds pretty great.
Yeah, so.
I don't know, Kristen. I don't know if you want to be chaperoning through New Orleans with a bunch of kids.
I mean, listen, I did my time in New Orleans. I think I could handle it now, though.
It's a great program schedule they have, and it's really good itinerary where the kids can have a lot of different experiences visiting the museums. That cooking class I was talking to you guys, that sounds like a great opportunity for kids as well, so.
Parts of doing a trip like this, especially New Orleans with your jazz band and jazz choir. So one spot that seems pretty solid is there's a steamboat company down there, and there's a dock, and this is where a lot of the groups, school groups would typically play. It's covered, you know, so that in case there was some weather, we'd be set there. And there's a lot of foot traffic there. We want to have a good audience. I've heard, talking to other directors, that that's not always been the case. You know, you hope for the best, but you don't have a crowd, that's the worst. So I've really been talking to the tour company to make sure we had a lot of foot traffic. Also been in touch with previous director of music, Doug Olson, who's done the trip a few times. He actually was just down in last year with the MIT jazz band, and they ended up playing a gig with one of the members of the Preservation Hall jazz band. So not sure we can make that work. We're working on it, so.
It's not, I mean, it's funded by either the families, or you said there's some potentially financial assistance for those.
Yeah, absolutely, through fundraising and support from the MMA. Yeah, and there were a few families who, when we sent the survey out, who were asking about financial assistance, and we can definitely help those families. So. It's going to be 2,000. The initial estimate we gave families was 1,750 to 2,000, but with there's like a guaranteed refund program that World Strides has, which is $194. So that'll bring it right up close to 2,000, and there's going to be a smaller fee for like the busing to the airport and back. So it'll be about $2,000.
School committee members allowed to attend and support?
Sure.
Or chaperoned? We need chaperones. That sounds awesome. That sounds great.
Yeah, great trip.
Are you recording any of the performances?
I think so. Yeah, you did recordings when you were. Yeah.
Great.
Sure. Yeah.
sounds great.
Do you need anything from us on this one? This is just more awareness.
It's going to be a consent agenda vote.
Yes.
Yeah.
Part of it.
So I would
Yeah,
just
part of
ask, and I'll ask at the end, other than the minutes, if we want to, if anyone has issues, we carve one of them out. Otherwise, we'll just seek approval on everything. I think that's all
Yeah, that's great.
my questions. Sounds great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the next one is my appointment to Tech Collaborative and Accept. We typically do this in September, supposed to do it in August. We're always a little bit late on that. So I would ask that we
Be on
consider
time
doing
this
that
time.
tonight and be on time, so that we can send that email and not be one of the last ones to do that, so.
And just for, I think maybe for Kristen, can you just say a word or two about what they do?
Sure, yeah, so we belong to the Education Collaborative, which is in Walpole, and it's a mix of school committee and superintendents on the board of directors. They have an executive director that runs the organization, and they do they do a few things. One is cooperative purchasing that we participate in, many other districts participate. Their number one mission, though, is to provide special education support for students that districts cannot take care of and don't have the programs for. So they've been, I think Medfield's been a member since its beginning many years ago. Great organization, and the board meets every month. And it's typically on a Friday morning that the board meets. Accept is very similar, and they're out of Natick, and they're the other collaborative we belong to, and they mostly focus on professional development and special education for students. So that's an all superintendent board, that one, and then Tech is a mix of school committee and superintendent.
Thank you.
I think the last item is the approval of the minutes that are in the packet. So the regular meeting for June 12th, 2023, and July 24th, 2023. Executive session for June 21st, 2023, and July 27th, 2023.
You'd retain those, Mr. Chair, the executive session ones.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
some of those are still
They're still,
underway, so those would be retained, but we can still approve them.
right.
And the workshop on June 21st of 2023. So what we do is seek approval for really the entire consent agenda. Before doing so, is there any of those items that need to be carved out?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion?
to approve
Motion.
the consent agenda.
Second the motion?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Sounds unanimous. Great, thank you. So going into new business, and it was great this morning. The kickoff was fantastic, and I think you highlighted some of the staffing updates, but why don't you, Dr. Marston, you want to share?
Sure. So as part of our opening, each principal, and then if it's a special department, they present all the new staff members to the entire faculty and staff, which is great. It's a nice welcoming tradition that we have here. So what we've done typically in August, at the August meeting, is provide you with an update on staffing, give a report of who the new staff member is, whether it's a new hire, a change or assignment, what the position title is, what school, what administrator is requesting it, and whether the full-time equivalent is 1 or below 1, the step and lane, and whether it's a new and existing position, and then the reason for the hire. So I think we have 27 total this year, with only a couple of them being the newer positions. If you look down on halfway down the first page, those are 2 new special education positions in the IEP, because the IEP that was determined after the budget process necessitated additional hire for those 2 positions. So for the most part, it's either resignations, medical leaves, or retirements. Happy to answer any questions on that. It's a little less than we had last year. I think last year we had 30 in the new hires, but a lot of moving parts, a lot of districts jockeying for staff. It's pretty competitive out there right now. One thing I will add that I know that the town is going to work on this year, and it's one of the goals that they're going to try to do. We've lost a couple of staff members this year that have accepted positions and that were finalists somewhere else, and then because they found out what our insurance is. And we have great insurance, but the ratio is a lot on the employee, less on the town. And what is it, Michael? 6238? 6238, which there's a lot of, and there isn't an opportunity for people to do like, if you're a husband and wife, a spouse, you have to do the entire family plan, which is more expensive. So if you have someone that is married with no children, you have to take the family plan, which is the same as if you had 4 kids. So there's no delineation around that. So they're looking at plan design, which I think is a really important thing to look at as a community, as a town. And they're going to try to save money with the plan design and look at higher deductibles and those kinds of things. So
Why the forcing of a family plan?
that's just what the option is. So that's, there is a insurance group that works, and I know the Board of Selectmen are working on this as well, because it is on their side. We don't have any control over it all. But just to be aware that we did lose a couple of folks because of that.
They also think of incentivizing, but not taking them.
Yeah, I've told the story, I think, before, my former district, when we changed it over, folks that went into a higher deductible, the town gave them all $1,000 at the end of the year, and then did it again the following year, and then they started paying people for not taking insurance, because you still save money that way.
Right.
So I think those are kind of the incentive programs that the town's looking at. I'm not sure it's gonna be anything like that structurally, but I think they're looking at changing it, because I think they've had the same issue this year as well, where someone was ready to be hired and they found out the insurance ratio and said, I can't afford that, I'm gonna go to town B instead, because they're at 75/25 and that kind of thing. So
Who does
definitely-
that sit with, Jeff?
I'm sorry.
Who does that decision sit with?
So that's with the Board of Selectmen. The town administrator works with the Board of Selectmen on that, and there's an insurance group that works together to, that represent, for instance, the teachers have a seat at the table, police have a seat at the table, fire, et cetera. So the larger labor unions will have a seat at the table, and they try to work together to get that. But I know that I talked to Christine last week about it, Christine Trewiler, and it's definitely something they're working on. So hopefully it won't be an issue for either hiring on the town or on our side again, but just wanted to bring that to your attention.
How many openings do we currently have?
We have, I think, 4 teacher aide positions, and my job, like with all my superintendent colleagues, some have 25 open right now, some have 1, some have 2, some, but it's all over the place. We have 2 teacher positions open right now, 1 key, 1 at the high school, special education. We've had 2 people lined up for that this week, and they were finalists somewhere else, and the insurance part crept up on us there. Our salaries are great, it's just we're very competitive there. But when you look at a salary, some people actually, coming from another district, will lose a little money if they come here and take our insurance. And then some folks don't take insurance. I don't take insurance here, so it's not an issue for someone like me that doesn't take the town insurance. So we're still, there are many districts that have a lot more than us at this point, but we still have 1 teaching that we have covered for the rest of the week. We have a .4 nurse that we're covering with right now. And the rest are a couple of teaching assistants.
How's that compare for us compared to years past?
I think we always seem to have a couple of teacher assistant positions about this time. We don't usually have a teacher position at this time.
We have a teacher position.
Special education high school, yeah.
Special education is very hard to hire. It's very hard.
We want to make sure it's the right fit too. Make sure it's the right fit for our kids.
So we had to go for any waivers?
Oh, yeah. But that could be on what we did last year, went for a waiver last year for special education.
Surprised we haven't.
Yeah, we had a person last year who was in a program for special education licensure, but did not have the credential yet.
Yeah.
So we went to Desi, got a waiver on that for the entire year, which, isn't a big deal, but it's,
Yeah.
they understand.
Today it's not a big deal, yeah.
In fact, Desi had gone back on whether or not retired folks could work as many hours if they want. Usually there's a limit to what retired teachers or administrators could work. They lifted that for special education because it just can't find it.
A waiver for the licensing.
Right.
Okay. I tell people at home a waivers for licensing.
Right.
You have the license, it's just not a license in the particular area.
But the person that I'm talking about from last year was licensed to teach high school English and was in a special education program but not licensed yet, so. that's what it is.
Just for people to understand.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, no, thanks. The handbook, the 2023-24 student handbook approvals, and I read through them, but I think you just want to call it what really changed is the addition of the safety protocols. It's
Right.
like general information. That's good.
And it's in every building, so all
All of them.
all 5 buildings have that. Apologize, I didn't pull it up. That really came out of our workshop. So you guys had talked to me about that and what had happened last year in Dale Street with the confusion with parents. So when we did our retreat, we talked about it as a leadership team and thought it made total sense to add that in there just for clarification purposes and really explain what the difference is in each one, but also give an example, and hopefully that will help things out in the future. But that was a great suggestion and made total sense to put in.
So it's those like, at least the 2 paragraphs that speak to the protocols of the drills and what shelter in place means. And the
difference
examples
between
of,
lockdown.
yeah, okay. Yep, that looked good.
Yeah, I know that made a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I think even a reminder, and maybe you could have it as they kick off the year,
Right.
just highlighting that, which is good. And I forget, do we take a vote?
You do. You vote to approve them.
Okay. I think before doing that, I think there was also at least a conversation around the mobile device usage and what does it look like across the different schools.
Yeah, I read through the ones, obviously, the one that brought that up, and I read through them, and I think the language is there that we're seeking. So I think going back to some of our original conversation, it's about the establishing more of the cultural side of supporting the why the handbook is read that way, and how it's kind of supported culturally within, particularly the middle and high school. And I did have a brief conversation with Dr. Marston about that, and I think others, I'm not sure if others have, but just about that being a subject matter piece that he will be launching, within his team, to address, with student body, with administrators and teachers, and why it's important to support the actual policy and the handbook and why it is that way, and then could bring back recommendations for adjustments that we could vote later, maybe, so that the policy doesn't read so, driven by authority as opposed to supported, guidelines that support the culture. So, and maybe it's not an adjustment, maybe it's a working document that the schools adopt as part of their, support around communication. And I'll echo something you mentioned, Dr. Martin, in the conversation around, I wish the students would talk more to each other at lunchtime, when they have the opportunity, as opposed to, texting each other at lunchtime, so, and obviously that goes beyond, I think, policy work, as opposed to you coming back and asking us to adjust a policy a certain way to support the work you want to do and the way you want to execute it, or the way you and your team want to execute whatever the change is.
So does it make sense for me to gather information from teachers, from students over the next several weeks and then bring stuff back to you? Does that make sense? But I guess what I want to try to get is a baseline data point on what people feel about it.
I think that makes perfect sense.
Because if we can get a baseline data point and say, okay, there's X amount of people think that we need to do, we need to restrict phone use from this time to this time, whatever that is, at least we have something to work on. Right now, we're just kind of guessing a little bit and talking about it and making a lot of assumptions. So I think if we,
and instead of going crazy with some sort of ad hoc committee, I think just having you go in and do some research with a, whether it's a short survey and then a meeting, maybe of these constituents, and I'm guessing I'll listen to you on this particular point of, I'm assuming middle and high school where you might be targeting this conversation. And and maybe some parent feedback, I think might be helpful as well.
What is, I'm sure I've seen it every September and I'm just not getting the recall, but how do we distribute and notify the families of the handbook typically? What is
Email.
that? And that's from the principal?
Principal, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, so that wouldn't have happened yet, so that will be
Right.
happening.
Right.
So
Uh,
when that happens,
Matt
can
did
we,
send something out that outlined it actually.
the vote?
Not the parts of the handbook. He did one in particular around the use of phones.
Okay, great, yeah, just making sure that that's highlighted, I think, because, oftentimes, maybe you read them the first time your kid comes in the district and then you never
I
look at
doubt
it
it.
again.
Oh, no. There's a
I
lot.
read it once, I read it once.
There's a
Most
lot
people
in there. Yeah, most people don't. In fact, if I get down to the fourth paragraph of Matt, he knows too. I'm in luck. So, but I was hunting for it.
Yeah,
I think that's, sorry.
no, man,
I looked at it too, because I'm on the train with Leo for that stuff. I think the policy's there, but like the data, anything you get, Jeff, from the teachers and the kids, and we can talk to parents, but because I think where we're coming from is trying to not protect, help the teachers enforce the rules, because we've had a couple conversations, and, it's a kid's personal property, and they're very attached to them, and so anything we can do to help the teachers, and I think some of that, Leo, you kind of mentioned, it goes to like the culture we build in our community, right? It's more work we have to do as community members and parents with our expectations of our kids in school. But if you can get that data, Jeff, that the teachers are like, yeah, it's a problem. Like they're pulling them out in class every time they're in the hallway and lunch. Like, so then it's like, do we do it through policy or do we do it through like, I don't know, a big awareness thing in Medfield? And I'm not sure what the right way is, but I think the policy's there. It's just about how can we help the teachers and how can we help the kids? Because they're like addicted. It's a
There's
problem.
been some early findings. A lot of school districts across the country and here have, ramped up their usage within their schools about when they're being used and when they're not being used. There's been some really early findings because remember a lot of the South and the West are already back. They've been back for a month now in school. And they're seeing increased assessment scores, less social emotional struggles, and obviously more communication face to face, and obvious things that we would figure. And I think it was either 48 hours, 60 minutes did the segment on it a couple weeks ago, and I have not had a chance to look at it. So, I'm gonna go take a look at that. But that's information we could share, and maybe do it on the webpage around the conversation or something. Because I think we want to hear from families too, about because they are a vital tool for logistics in students and parents' lives now. My parents, occasionally I find it frustrating when Anna doesn't have a smartwatch or something for me to communicate with her. But at the same time, she has no interest in it, and I don't want to force that. So, and people don't know that's my 10-year-old. But again, and it could be a shift in culture too of students of a certain age starting to realize that too. Parents kind of enforcing a little more screen time and separation. There's also a trend where students in the lower grades don't even lean towards social media either. So there are different trends that we're seeing culturally in our own global culture. But how we reflect that in what we're doing here. To echo what Will said, I think it's important to have everyone together. And I think I did speak to Principal Vaughn about that. He wanted to make sure that it was a community-driven decision or direction.
I'm happy to get the information.
You'll survey everybody and get us details by October?
The October meeting?
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that sound good?
Just had a couple comments. I suspect, here, and Will, I think at the workshop you did, what you described, what goes on where you were, was almost identical to what I heard 5 years ago when we did a lot of research with the SEL. So I do suspect that they're going to say, yeah, the policies, there are, a percentage of kids, there are times when they're just not being followed, and it becomes difficult to enforce for teachers. I think that these are just some questions to think about. I think are the policies being followed? Or by what percentage? When are they using phones or devices? Well, they're not actually using them during class. It's just between, it's really high during the lunchroom. you know, where do you see that as a problem as a teacher? You know what, I agree, you know, Leo, your comment, I agree, maybe it shouldn't be used in the lunchroom. Because all it takes is one kid and all of a sudden 4 of them are.
And maybe it's bigger than phones, Tim. You
That's
know?
what I said too.
Yeah.
Do they see the problem? Is it social media? Is it phones? Is it watches?
Earbuds.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the earbuds in the classroom. I don't know. You got it, Will, when you were in high school, right? And you used to have that. The earbuds in the hallways and the classroom. So and some kids use them therapeutically, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and how do you? What's the? You know, we don't want to. You know, if someone's using them as calming noise to get through the hallway because it's so bad. You know, I've heard that feedback as well. So, like I said, I think that the cultural aspect of it needs to come from the people itself. So,
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I can share them too, but I just said, like, what help or support are teachers seeking? What help or support are parents seeking? One thing that I don't know if it's urban legend or not, is it true that teachers are asking students to pull out their own device because the internet is not working in certain areas of this building?
I think that might have been the case before.
Yeah, that was
Not
always,
anymore.
that
No,
was
it
the
it
excuse
was the
4
case
years
before,
ago.
But I don't think it's the case.
yeah, I think at one point in time, perhaps, I did notice the shiny new access points hanging in the.
So I think it would be great, and I love the idea of let's not over formalize this thing, and we don't hear from you until April. You know, get a general sense, report back.
Yeah.
But it's definitely,
Jeff may come back and say, this is a bigger problem than I thought.
I could, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, but no, I don't think we have enough information to make any policy changes. And I think,
yeah, I'm not asking for that. I think we have data that tells me, you know, you just
Yeah.
look at the studies, you look at the mental health, you look at the percentages. It always goes back to 08, 09.
Yeah.
Coincidentally, when Facebook and some of these sites
One day,
started coming out. So I'd love to be a leader.
the iPhone came out in 07, so that hitting mainstream in 09 or 10. So,
And I think I have heard you say too, it'd be great if the state kind of stepped in and made it easier. But,
yeah, I know they're offering financial support. I don't know if
They
they're.
haven't released anything yet. They keep talking about it, but we had a meeting with the commissioner the other day, there was no mention of it.
so unless there's any other is there any other?
Yeah, I just had one more, on the elementary school student handbook, it still had an addendum D on COVID that was all masks and visitor rules that all felt like it was no longer valid and should be pulled.
Oh, that's on page 56.
This
That's
is at the end.
137, you know, so.
A lot of reading.
What page is that?
I don't know the page, it was
130.
addendum D.
130.
I can pull up my computer,
Oh,
just
yeah,
on the
it's dated.
elementary school
Yeah.
one.
Oh, that's the addendum D, yeah. Yeah, that should be deleted out.
Yeah, I guess I can enforce striking that.
Yeah, I would say that you could approve it based on
Removal of that.
removal of that, yeah. Did you get that, Andrew? Thank you.
I know, I read it and I got a
I'm not
little
reading it.
anxious,
I'm
and
not
I'm like,
reading
wait
it.
a
No.
minute, this is old.
I can't read that.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that you brought that up and you're gonna do that because that was approved by you folks. That was something that you did in 2021, so that whole addendum D that we had to have. That's good. Good pickup.
Fingers crossed too. Yeah, COVID.
So, anything else on the handbook from anyone else?
So I would, I guess, entertain a motion to approve the elementary handbook, the high school student handbook, and the Blake Middle School student handbook.
After the removal of addendum D.
Yeah, approval of elementary school handbook
After removal of addendum D.
As amended. So moved?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. So next on the agenda is the Medfield School Committee goals and process. And I think We are going to talk in a bit as well, just on the strategic plan and the update. But the strategic plan is a great starting point. I think we look at that as a 5-year plan. I think Dr. Marsden typically will start to zero in on, and I heard some of that even in your remarks today as to whether they focus this year. I think we wanted to have a little bit of that backdrop, and we haven't done, I'll be the first to say, a great job of establishing what are our goals at the beginning of the year as a school committee, and at the end of the year, how do we do against it? So, one, I think it would be worthwhile, whether it's now or in the next meeting, just to see what are kind of the key themes that you're focusing on this year from the strategic plan. I would rather not have it take us 3 or 4 months to come up with our goals. I'd rather have that, fairly quick. And what I would, so first off, let me ask, is that something you want to, you would all?
Yeah, I had that on for September because we're still working on the timelines and everything. So as far as like what the 2023 focus, 2024 focus is, what we're doing when we're starting them, that's what we worked on our retreat and preparing that for September.
Okay.
The next meeting.
So you would have that for the next meeting.
The next meeting.
And my suggestion would be, and almost like what we're going to do with the letter, is we can prepare maybe a draft and work with Michelle and Dr. Marston of what they would look like in our September meeting. We can probably discuss that as a group, and then take feedback, and then try to get something approved in the following meeting. Something we do.
What they would look like, you made the school committee, like, so Dr. Marsden, we're gonna have like those 2 check-ins, one's in September, so you're talking about the school committee goals between now and our September meeting, of like a rough of ours.
Yeah, but they'll align with the strategic
Yeah, of
plan,
course,
right?
yeah, okay.
But outside of that, I did have one that doesn't fully align that, just because we've been spending so much time on the policies. I think if we gave ourselves the goal of making sure the policy is well reviewed, so they could get on the MASC website, that would be very easiest for not to even have to worry about
Right.
the strategic plan, and knowing we've been working on it so hard and that we want it to be online. So that was one that I saw at the top of my head that was kind of separate from that.
Yeah, I don't. I tend to agree too. If our body doesn't, I don't think. I think it would be erroneous if ours mirrored the goals for the district for a given year. I think it is definitely, here's a couple of focus areas that's consistent, and I haven't thought through, exactly what we want to do, but I think, we saw it last year, like community was a really big area of focus, and in some ways turning ourselves, I've said the term inside out, meaning making ourselves more accessible and how we work. But I think that's what I would suggest, is come up with a draft for the next meeting, have some conversation on it. Hear again from you on the goals for the year, and then ideally, we can bring something forward for the October meeting. And then the idea would be, meeting towards the end of the year. How are we doing? Yeah. But they should work their way pretty much into the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't think there'll be any surprises. So I don't know how to I know that's loose, but it's establishing more structure, I think, than we've had in the past.
Yeah.
So how does that sound?
Yeah, I think that's great, because we can, each come to the table with some pre-thought ideas, then discuss those and narrow down to what we think are measurable and, going to have the most impact.
Yeah, so and that's what I can compile. So if you have some of the ideas, share them with me, and I can, put them through. But coming through with ideas and, whatever we bring forward.
So get them to you before the September meeting, or present them at the September meeting, and we'll talk about it?
I'd look to present them at the September meeting.
Okay.
But if you said, hey, I think, A, B, C, and D are kind of appropriate, or these are the key themes, I think sharing that in advance would be a great idea. And if if it didn't happen, that's okay. That's why we'll do it over 2 meetings. Okay. Any other items since posting?
No, Mr. Chair.
The only thing I had was the January date, so I believe.
Oh, you said there's a concert, right?
Yeah, I think the Dale Street Band concert, I believe all 3 of us have band kids, right?
Do we have the concert dates, or?
Dale Street did.
Oh, oh.
So just because we have a school committee, I just wanted to, we don't have to adjust it right now, but just knowing that, I think that it's around that forum.
Yeah, suggestion.
Was it the first meeting or the second meeting?
January
Say
11th.
11. Yeah.
I'm just wondering whether we would want to try to go to a Monday. The January is the one where we typically hold two, right? Because the second one is the public hearing.
Correct.
So we don't know if we would want to lose a week.
Right,
So
go earlier, everyone can send their dates around. And then, you have band and chorus, band and orchestra,
Then in course.
band and chorus, so that would be the other thing. Because I believe Dale Street, music celebrations are all the same week, they're
They
just
are.
different nights.
Yeah,
So that would be the other thing to be mindful of.
but probably not on a Monday night of that week, I wouldn't
Yeah.
think.
Yeah,
Oh,
and if
probably.
it's just me for chorus, it's different than three of us with band. Like,
That's true, yes.
I love you, Roy.
And it will here, just come after.
We ran over, we had a meeting, oh, we had the other thing, the 5-year plan, we had to run over to it, but. So do we want to do that right now, or we just,
So we want to pencil in the 8th?
no, the 8th,
We just vote the change.
that works for me.
Yeah, I think-
Yeah, we were close to get about it, and then it was changed last time. Right? Which happens.
Need to vote the change?
Typically vote the calendar, so
Yeah.
it's not hard, you know, I was just entertaining a motion to adjust the January 11th meeting to Monday, January 8th, same time, same place.
Well moved.
Is it second?
Second. Well, second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, I don't know whether, Shallon, so the next topic is going to old business, which is really nice, new, shiny strategic
Chair,
plan.
I was wondering, we had a representative here from one of the classes, and I'm not sure if this gentleman is here and just to take notes.
He is,
or-
yeah, yeah.
Yes, oh, okay, just checking. I would give him an opportunity to have anything to add. Yeah. So, that's up to you, Mr. Chair.
Anything to add?
If he had anything, any statements to deliver, didn't know if he was here to represent the class or just here to collect notes for the class.
Are you collecting notes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just attending.
Oh,
He's
okay.
just listening. He's
Yeah.
Diligently taking notes down during this whole phone.
So the strategic plan, actually, why don't I start with you, Dr. Marston, and then the others.
So in terms of the update, all the information has been sent to Teaching and Learning and Alliance, and they are working with the graphic designer at this point, so that we hope to have it by the end of September. We've sent them pictures and all the documents and the letter as well, so they're working on that, and hopefully they'll have everything for us. We're gonna do, they do a dashboard, like a one sheet of, for instance, our core values, our mission statement, and our vision statement, along with some other graphics. So we're gonna have those for every classroom in the district. So we're gonna put them out everywhere so that there's a visual reminder for everyone of what those important themes are. So once they're done with that, we'll get that going. So I would say mid-October, probably we'd have all that part done once we send them to the printers. But yeah, they've been great to work with, and our timetable is still the end of September. So hope to have it.
Do you want feedback on the letter?
Sure.
It's got to spell my name right.
Yeah, and
Your name's not spelled right? Jeez.
It's okay. It's like everywhere because it's a very difficult name, so I get it.
Is it
But,
really?
you know.
Oh, yeah. All right, we'll make sure we take care of that.
Or she could be in charge. I don't care.
so,
We'll find this woman.
the feedback on the letter, apologize for that, the name thing, spelling of the name wrong. But any other feedback? One thing is we were kind of, I thought it was a good process. I will share. That was interesting for me as a bit of a, like I wasn't part of the committee. I spent a fair amount of time just looking, and then I'm looking out and seeing how others are doing it. And one change that we've done that I think is worthwhile in the past, I think we've had a separate letter from the school committee and the superintendent. I asked both these things, should it be 2 or should it be 1? I think both of us kind of went into it and said, hey, if we have something glaring that we want to say that's more appropriate from the school committee, Dr. Marston has something else that's more appropriate from administration, it'll be 2. But I said, let's draft one up and see what it looks like. And, Dr. Marston reviewed it and tweaked it a little. But I think it was a good change. We have 1 letter, right, which does represent, to me, it speaks to the alignment that we have and full support of the process. So I thought that was good. One thing that I think is important as we get the graphics, I thought it was appropriate in the letter that, as you said, today, Dr. Marsden, core values, right? That's so critical to everything we do, and so should they be in there? The draft that we see right now, you don't see them, but the graphics, they will be within the letter. So you will see, if somebody were to just read that almost executive summary, you will see core values, you will see vision statement, you will see mission statement embedded right in the letter, which to me, I think that was important. I like the way that looked. It kind of stands out a little more when I looked at how some of the others are doing. So that I think was like, if you read it without that, you might say, hey, where is that? Well, it's in the plan, which is fantastic. But other than that, if there's any feedback, or especially Michelle or Will, being part of the committee, anything that is missed that you want to reinforce.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about, after we had the meat of it all done, like how it's gonna look. I'm a very visual person, so I'm excited to see how it all comes together. So.
And remember, we're looking at using the clock from Electric Time as the theme. So I did reach out to them, and they were happy to give us space, pictures off the website. They have a whole group of pictures if we need it. So if the graphic designer needs additional pictures from them, they'll do that.
Yeah.
We're very happy with it.
And then I guess the other thing would be the dashboard we talked about. That's separate from the one they're doing, right? The one that I think Norwood maybe was doing it. Canton, sorry. Okay. So just that's still on the TBD in regards to putting that all together,
right.
So we can have that for everybody as well. So.
That's actually a good point. Even when we think about the goals, like that might be something that is appropriate.
Yeah.
Like, look, we have a little bit more of a formal process around that could be one of our goals, looking at how are we performing against that strategic plan. So they should all kind of link together.
Yeah.
Which is great. So, but no, that's great. And I think we're all excited. It definitely, it was fun too for me looking at different districts and starting to see where you have that. There's a term we use sometimes in technology. You can really dress up some technology that doesn't look well, and it can look great until you get it in the house.
Lipstick on a pig is what we usually call it in software.
I've heard that. Yeah, that's the expression. But I think what I find, there's some plans that there's no lipstick whatsoever, and it's just like, geez, why would I want to even read it? Yeah. There's others where it pops, like they're reinforcing the key parts of the process. So I think that that lipstick it's not a pig that we're putting on there.
That's the reason why advertising works.
Sorry, I brought that up.
Well, you're in technology too. There's all kinds of other expressions.
Really not in the marketing department.
I'm in product. We put the lipstick on the pig, trust me, I know.
Suffice it to say, we're excited about those graphical designers, and maybe that's even better. We got the Ashland art tables. We're producing some of our own over time, just to see what it looks like. So it's good progress there. Community engagement and communication. And Michelle, I'm seeing you're going to continue, I think, so far with the social posts and whatnot.
Yeah, if anyone ever has like something that they want to be highlighted or shared on our social media channels, just let me know. But yeah, continue that for this year. And then just thinking, I
And
guess.
on that one, I will call it out too. Michelle, I don't know if I mean, there's a lot of work that goes into it. You're very thoughtful about it. I think just little things, like last year towards the end, you were thinking 1 and 2 weeks in advance. What are we gonna want to be out there? So that's appreciated. You're seeing followers, getting more people engaging. I think that's a great thing.
Really good, I think it's fun.
You're good at it, for sure.
Yeah, and I think also though, it's like, hey, if that's all we're doing, you know, it's the other stuff that also, you know, like those really work together. So I think we're going to continue with that. I think one thing we started last year, which we would continue when you have the principals come in, which is usually the kind of, you know, into October to talk about the openings. They're going to bring the site council lead with them, which I think reinforces what's going on with the site council, having them speak a little bit about what were kind of the recommendations, because that's a formal process that they shared last year. I think would be worthwhile. Last year, for the first time, we asked each member of the school committee try to informally kind of work with one of the PTOs. And by informally, it was, you know, attend 1 or 2 meetings, and circle back, see what you learned. Sometimes at the end of the agenda, we can say everything else. I think we want to continue that. I was going to pause on that one because I did hear Kristen would stay with Dale.
Yeah. If you'll have me, Nessie.
Yeah, this is just if they'll have you. We wanted that. Michelle, you wanted to stay with Memorial?
I wanted to switch to Memorial.
Switch to Memorial.
Yeah.
And some of that is also just connected to the SBC work.
Yeah, Kristen and I talked very lightly about, we felt the two of us should be on elementary school PTOs, just so we can have, again, that ear to everything that's going on in those schools. And I felt that Memorial, having some of the building constraints that it has, I want to just be mindful of what's going on there as well. So that was my thought.
And Will, we talked briefly, but you're open to high school or middle school.
Yeah, I think those would be fine. That's why I've spent the last 9 years. And I'll get you all the dates, because I did talk to Kelly and I have all the Memorial dates, but I'm sure you can talk to Kelly
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
That's what we had said before, but I'm fine switching, and frankly, my only thing was like, don't do Dale, because my kids are there, so I can reach more people. So middle and high school works, and I'll contact whoever. I think you're,
I sent an email today with contacts, yeah.
okay. Yeah, I'm happy to do Blake if we're naming them. Or
Yeah,
Good
and
high school.
Leo has a preference.
You want high school?
Yeah,
Perfect.
I've been
And I would take
I'm
you.
involved in Blake. Blake's gonna be there a while. I think I'm under-involved with high school. At times, so.
And let me make sure I get it right. Will with Blake?
Blake.
Okay.
That leaves
Leo,
me
the
luck
high
to you.
And then that leaves me with Wheelock. And again, the ask is not, it's not a mandate to attend all meetings if you want. I think it is just to make sure you're at least a familiar face. If they ever want to reach out, they can obviously reach out to any of us. But it's, you know, it's just would be natural.
Yeah, it needs to strengthening a partnership, right? So.
And that, this again, it's, if there's any other ideas, I think we are always thinking about these things. That I think some of the comments I've heard as we're updating the student handbook, trying to make it more user-friendly, trying to take some of the themes that we have during our meetings where we ask, hey, can you ask as the principals share, to get that out there. So, but any other ideas on that? I think one of the other ones, we did a couple of the, what do we call them?
Informal conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a more official term for it.
Look it up.
Yeah, it was, but they were, what do we call it? It's,
Straight talk with the committee.
no, it wasn't straight time.
Coffee talk.
Office hours.
Yeah, I think they were office hours previously, and we tried to rebrand them so that people understood they could just come and talk as a group. Office hours. Yeah, office hours kind of insinuates like a one-on-one, and you close the door and like meet. The concept was more, anyone can show up like this, but you only have 2 members, so we can talk freely with the public and not be constrained to O&M.
Yeah, I thought that was, maybe I mean, this again, loosely, but I thought last year if we did try to do 2 per half year, 2
Before
before, and maybe one remote, one face-to-face.
Okay.
And we'll kind of work out the schedule, but let's choose some dates.
Yep.
See what we can do. So those are a few, if there's any other exciting ideas.
The mailer again this year? Budget
Absolutely.
mailer, yeah, okay. And yeah, do you guys have any ideas from, I guess, stuff we've done that we can expand on, or talking to people in the community on what they, you know, feel would help them have more information?
The other thing we talked about at one point, and I don't know if we felt that there was gonna be any value to it, but whether or not we wanted to have something in the paper as like a, you know, maybe post-meeting update or at some frequency that's just like, here's the status of, you know, some of the things being discussed with the school committee. At one point we talked about, I think, with making that a piece of like an, you know, input to the newspaper, but just as another forum to reach other people. I don't know if we want to pursue that or not.
There's school newspaper in there.
I mean, that would almost fall, you know, under some of the work we're doing on social.
Yeah.
I did ask Michelle a little while ago, if you want help with that, or I don't want it to be overwhelming. I think that also could be, hey, here's some news that we can use from the school committee a couple times a year. And I know they're always looking for content. That might be worth it. And I think the other, to me, the theme on the engagement is, one is us taking, you know, information, news you can use and sharing out. But I think almost more important is making sure, as parents and students, people's voices are being heard.
Yeah.
You know, we're able to get signal. I think that was, for me, it was more during the pandemic, we started to realize, hey, we're really good at, you know, pushing out things like the classic report card, this is how you're doing.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hearing from the parents, hey, how are they doing? So that's kind of part of it, when I keep saying that, you know, turning ourselves inside out, but making sure we're doing a great job on
I had for Kristen about her comment around follow-up in the newspaper. Is it something just is it the feeling or the way a newspaper article is written that you're looking to interpret what's happening with the school committee and the work that's been going on after each meeting?
Yeah, I think someone else had raised it as an idea before. It's just on recall for me. And I think that part of it was also just getting in front of a different audience for whom the social media is not, you know, really their first source or go-to, and perhaps isn't even as accessible to them. So
We had talked about, I think we might have even retained, you know, professional services from someone around communications in a sense. Perhaps it's something we revisit around, like a once a month set of media that interprets all the goings on from school committee, kind of like a summary that can go into all aspects, social, newspaper, and everything else. You know, this day and age, not cost prohibitive, and it may be just another avenue that we could leverage, and could be published in other electronic and non-electronic.
So, people hometown weekly, everyone gets it.
Right.
So
like,
you don't have to search for it, it comes right to your house.
right. So something where get something in the hometown weekly, and then that same thing can go and you know, I'll go in other possible newspapers or publications that people use.
Yeah.
But I think it's, you know, something that I don't know. The whole communication world has been kind of turned on its head as of late, and I hate to have us, you know, focusing on things that may not get traction, but perhaps we can put some analytics behind it. You know, how many we get into every site. You know, we're getting analytics back from our social hits. So maybe it's something that I know you had had resources identified in the past.
I'm thinking of a resource we might have is, don't we have like a great newspaper here within the schools? No, we did, should we, you know, I'm also wondering, like, if we have our student rep, I'm not sure why you're taking notes, maybe that might be something to explore. And the school say, hey, this school committee would love to have somebody report a couple times a year about what's going on in the school committee, and it comes from students. It's a different outlook.
Yeah.
Could be a directed study or something, even of some sort.
The directed study.
Something Dr. Marston could approve for credit. You know, if it were something all year, a group of kids, all year, if it was done every month, right? It could be something.
We said we don't.
I'm just thinking outside the box, Jeff. Didn't mean to throw me
Yeah,
under the bus on that.
I think they're
And that one
thinking
I-
of the hometown weekly though.
It could be
Oh, the
published.
kid could publish it. and
It
then-
could go in the
Okay.
Hometown Weekly,
Yeah.
and it could go on any other. The same content can go all over, and it could be adjusted accordingly, which is part of the learning process too, right?
So don't forget, in our strategic plan, we do have develop a communications plan, right?
Yeah.
As part of that, so this could be part of that process, is kind of assessing. We'd have to have someone outside do that, professional that does this. We can look at what we're doing and how we can improve it, and that might be one of the recommendations.
Yeah, so why don't we, like, it's nice. It's kind of like I do enjoy when we have the students come in,
Yeah.
you know, what's going on in each grade. Like, in some cases, I think maybe we should be opening that up in more schools. But it could be something where, you know, maybe there is some interest in, like a pilot or something. Hey, this is what we're hearing in school. Maybe there's a student who would be interested. They could do it anyways. You know, sure. But,
Can't stop them.
yeah, good. No, so we're I like that. I like the idea. So anything else? I think this is a key topic. School building committee update. I saw something that
Happy to.
You wanna give the
You wanna go first?
I was
MSBA
gonna read my
update?
email.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Read your email.
Okay, so I sent an email to MSBA, excuse me, to the school building committee about MSBA meeting that we had last week. So I'll just read it to you verbatim. Hi, everyone. I wanted to let you know that I was contacted by MSBA and along with Christine Freeweiler, who is the town administrator, had a Zoom call with them yesterday. They have begun their due diligence period for the 62 SOIs, statement of interest, that were submitted in April. MSBA wanted to hear about what the town has been up to since the failed vote. After they heard about the annual town meeting allocations, and then you know that the town on the last 2 years has allocated $250,000 to the SBC. The establishment of a new SBC with monthly meetings, surveys, communications subcommittee, and the unanimous support of the SOI from the Medfield School Committee, Medfield Select Board, and the School Building Committee, they declare our efforts to be impressive. It was also interesting to hear that we were, when we were approved in 2017, which I had to look up, I couldn't believe it was 2017. I thought it was 18 or 19, but it was 2017. The Dale Street School was identified, their term, not mine, most needy school out of the 70+ SOIs submitted in that round. It's unclear where we stand in this round. In addition, they let us know that the MSBA reimbursement rate for 2023 for Medfield is now 42.79%, up from 38.84% in 2017. And we were cautioned that this number could fluctuate in the future, but that is our number now, which is a little over, almost a 4% increase. As I said, I thought it was a positive meeting, and then they're going to let us know probably November, early December, what their decision is. But I thought it went really, really well. They read to us what our percentage was, and just follow along with me. So it starts at 38.84 in 2017, and then when you build certain things into that project, you get credit for certain points. So we did the geothermal, we did preparation for the solar panels, all these things that allow you to gain points with MSBA. MSBA, our reimbursement was going to be at 44% for that project, up from 38 because of the extras we put in. So if we start at 42 and then put the extras in, we could be at 46%, 47%, which would be great if we get to that point. So kind of a waiting game now, but I thought it was pretty positive. Since last year we put the SOI in, we never got the phone call. We got a thanks but no thanks letter in November.
Definitely positive news.
So again, you're saying, so there was no due diligence?
Not
Last year,
No.
nothing
Yeah.
last year. Nothing.
You've always said one of the bigger key factors is of those, whatever, 62 applied, how many are
In the
high schools?
Yeah, that's the problem.
Which is,
And you don't know that right now?
They didn't give us that information.
That was good.
But I also didn't know that we were termed most needy.
Right, yeah,
We must still be up there now,
Even more most needy.
yeah.
I think.
Oh, they visited Dale.
Well, that's what they said. They visited Dale, so they need to come back again. They knew, and certainly we've done some improvements, but the core issue was still there.
Right,
Not to take away from Mike's new floors, just saying.
right, also that.
So we have our next meeting is on September 11th, and then Medfield Day is September 23rd, and the SBC has a booth there from 10 to 4 for the hours of Medfield Day. And so anybody obviously is encouraged to stop by. Members of the committee will be there all day manning the booth to answer questions about, who is the SBC, what is the makeup, who's part of it, what's been going on since the new committee was formed, as well as what are the highlights of the next steps and process, just to give people some understanding of, these are the big decisions that have to get made, and here's where it has to go from here. And then we're also going to have a write-up on an understanding of MSBA funding for those that are curious to, know why, pros, cons, like what does that look like. So as a committee, we sort of all acknowledge that should we get the funding, we take the funding, which is great. So we'll keep our fingers crossed for that. But otherwise, I would say not a whole lot of change from the last update that we gave. We did have Mike Weber take us through again some of the original site selections, so we did review that, just to kind of get those who were not involved in the project the first time up to speed on some of the things that had been considered and what kind of options we had and so forth. So, that's obviously still a big decision point that needs to get made. And then as we discussed last time, now that we're back from summer break, we just need to sit and reconvene on, I think, some of our size recommendations that we want to put forth so that, the project is representative of the need.
And I felt like, through the conversation with MSBA, they said that those are great conversations for SBA to have prior to finding out whether we get selected or not.
Yeah, we're going to do it
They
anyway.
had mentioned to us that you're probably going to be able to use a lot of the feasibility study from last time. So that money wasn't wasted. You're probably going to use a lot of that. You're not going to have to redo a lot of that information, which is great. It's good to hear that they've had other districts that have had a failed vote that have come back and had a successful vote and built a school. They were able to use a lot of those.
I think they give you 5 years on the information, what I understand.
The other piece was I was able to, 2 weeks ago, visit the new Ashland Elementary School, which is a 3-4-5 minor school. It's a really good example of how you can build an elementary school while school's in session with kids in a building, build it adjacent to it, open the new school, knock the other one down. So it was a really good example of that. They did some really nice things there with the design. They did the oversized gym that we were talking about. They did the cafeteria that we had done with the stage and the lighting, really, really well done. So.
And the geothermal, right?
And I have to tell you, I was always skeptical of the geothermal, and I really was. I just couldn't wrap my head around it. But after going to that school, and it was a hot, humid day we were there, every nook and cranny of that school was 68 degrees. And they weren't using AC, and they weren't using HVAC. It was all geothermal cool. Phenomenal. Really, really good. So I know that that was something that we wanted to put in the last one. And I think if we get to that point, it might be something to consider. I'm not sure you can do it if you do it ad reno. You probably can't do it if you build a new one. You probably can't. So, but I think it's a good field trip for the SBC and then anyone else that wants to go. I think that'd be a good trip this fall to kind of walk through it and get a sense of what it looks like with the kids in there. And 675 kids through fall. Okay. That's good. We did a lot with a small footprint and a lot of. I was really impressed by how they maximized the space and the design.
And then Tim, I know you and I have talked a little bit. So the SBC is responsible to meet with the select board, and I touched base with Mike today. That hasn't been set yet. I know we had talked very high level of perhaps the school committee being involved with that as well.
Yeah, I was just playing with that in my head. It's a good idea in my eyes. Where my brain goes is, I'm immediately just thinking like, okay, what's the broader project plan? So, are we thinking, when might we if we were to bring something to the town for a vote,
Yeah.
we draw a line in the sand, I was suggesting spring of 25.
Okay.
You know, like if
You have to
I'm
just
I'm
wait
just
to-
thinking,
Have to wait for MSBA, right?
Right,
So
and-
if you get in, then they're gonna kind of define what that looks like.
if we don't get in, we still have to.
Then you gotta figure something out.
Yeah, we still have to be, like, I just, this is just throwing it out, is that how are people thinking about it? You know, between us and,
I don't know the
25,
timing.
I was thinking spring of 24, and I'm not saying that's the case, and somebody's like 20, I was thinking 28. Like, it might be a good way to also report back to members of the town. Not everybody goes in and reads the minutes.
Yeah.
Just say, hey, what have we done since this, SBC has been formed? Where have we gotten to? This is what we think is gonna happen over the next 3 to 6 months. These are the major milestones. Like, I think it's a foursome function.
I thought it was worthwhile last time we did that. I mean, having everyone in the same room, having a conversation.
Yeah.
Thought it was worthwhile.
It's also a great way to get feedback. Some it's great to hear there was unanimous support, the SOI.
Right.
Then I also, part of this as well, how did that, what was the support like in the survey? Or are there other folks, like if there is feedback? So I think it would be a good idea. I believe it's, they have to report to the select board.
Every 6 months, yeah. That's an update. But I don't know if it makes sense to make it something where all 3 groups are there, kind of making sure everybody's on the same page, right?
I was asking for a joint meeting, like,
Yeah.
okay.
Right.
Sorry, it took me a while. Yeah, but sometimes
I just
they
wasn't
did that about every 3 to 6. Usually that was a fair amount of effort to say, okay, let's get everything together.
We held them live, we held them here.
Yeah.
It was on Zoom, it was great.
Yeah, so maybe like late September or into October. I think maybe there's a lot going on.
Yeah. Yeah. That's all right.
Close to that tail.
Close to the tail.
So you want to do one before that we hear from SBA too?
MSBA wouldn't be until December.
Right, so you want to have a joint meeting before that?
To me, it feels like otherwise all our eggs are in that one basket. And
I like it.
I would like to say, hey, look, I don't want to be, all of a sudden it's December, we got in, now what?
Well, that's not
Or
happening,
school building,
so,
yeah.
so let's, sounds like, Michelle, you've already talked to Mike, so just figure out
I just
through
touched
him,
base to see if he had already set that meeting up, and he
Yeah.
said that, they hadn't done that yet, so.
figure out what's good timing and just do it.
I thought it
Worst
could be
case
a,
scenario is we don't get in that way, right?
Yeah.
If you get in MSBA, it's pretty defined and you kind of go through their process. But if you don't, now what we do? I think that's what we gotta try to figure out.
yeah,
I don't think it would hurt, I don't know about how they decide. I think generally they look at schools and districts who appear to be prepared. So if we're preparing for a yes, without an enormous amount of work, I think it's, a yes from MSBA does not mean anything to the town.
right.
Let me get that part.
Yeah, so, you guys, you have a meeting with SBC next week?
September 11th.
Oh, okay. So yeah, maybe,
Bring that, you guys can bring that up on the 11th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
Cool.
Okay, coming towards the end on page 2 here, the policy review. Leo's, is so excited. So, one I would say,
We need to circle back with and get our process back in place.
yeah, we're gonna try to get going. It's not unusual that
Late summer, yeah.
things are quiet. When we did kick that off with Jim Hardy from MASC, he said it's typically 9 to 12 months to get through it. And, I think we're kind of pacing in that.
Yeah, we're in that ballpark. We just need to get back on our cadence.
Yeah, so I think for the next meeting, we should be able to bring forward. I have not polished up exactly where we said.
I have to go back and do this one. Read his last email.
Oh, let's stay organized. But so we
I'm just
Andrea's
gonna need a
been
raise.
Good luck.
getting funny looks from all sides. I think we did that reorg at the beginning. But so we're going to start getting going with that. And that typically Leo and I and Mike or Jeff are meeting, you know, once or twice a month to try to bring you folks what the changes are.
And 1 or 2 sections.
So we're gonna pick that back up
Yep.
for the next. Okay.
For some light reading.
Yeah, the goal again is to get it on the MASC website, right, so that it's more user-friendly
And
for
please
everybody.
advise that not to do it piecemeal, but to finish it and then put it all
Yes,
at once, and then
right.
make additional changes if you want. Tim and I can talk about that with him probably again. It may be worthwhile to.
Take what we have.
I think it's time.
Yeah, he had some pretty good reasons.
He
It's
did.
also to keep you going. Sometimes you might get piecemeal and you just don't, you start but you don't finish. I think there is the idea, and I think Dr. Marsden, you may have, it's not unusual at the beginning of the year that maybe 1 or 2 policy updates that we take out of that seminar.
Yeah.
But I would love to try to get through this school year.
Yeah.
Be done.
Calendar
We can
year
have
would be
it all
nice.
done. I just, and that, my fear is like
By
bringing
January.
part of it forward. I get concerned.
Well, it's been converted to be machine readable. I think that's half the issue.
Right.
Before it was just pictures. So they've gone through that process.
Yeah.
At this point, moving it to the website is a matter of utility for them, just to copying and pasting in a meaningful way. And then it's machine readable on the website, which is what we want. So from that point, I think that, you know, whether we're done or not, I think getting them up there and maybe just identifying the ones not yet reviewed would be fine and doable. So I think they're just trying not to repeat work. I appreciate that. But we need to show some progress. And so, and that's being the client, we are the client.
So, yes, so
Certainly told
why
to
don't
me
we,
that way.
I'll reach out to Jim.
Okay.
And Leo, maybe.
We'll just talk about the
we can
next
ask-
meeting.
We can ask that.
Yeah.
I think it would be great if between us, we can come up with effectively having a schedule.
Yeah, and let's just get to what's remaining too, and maybe we can just schedule it out. Get the reading to our colleagues here. You know they're excited.
With plenty of notice, please.
Why there's 3 readings.
Yeah. But it should, I mean, when we get going, right, it's like first reading,
Yeah.
second reading, third, okay, right. Informational items.
I just, wanted to thank you guys for coming today. I know you guys, it was late notice and you had trouble with your schedule, but it was a really, really good kickoff today. And, a lot of energy in the room, and we usually do it outside, but the mist came in heavy overnight and it was still misty in the morning, so made the decision at 7:15 to put it inside, which was okay. I mean, I felt bad for our custodial staff that had moved stuff in and that they just put it out and all that, but we got it done and it was a great, great meeting. Got to visit the schools today. People were really excited. Can't wait for the kids to come in on Wednesday. And we have our senior cruise, which I think is probably the best event that we had almost all year. It's just phenomenal. We take our senior class to Boston, put them on the Spirit of Boston. We have dinner. We have a great 3-hour cruise. They have an awesome time. So it's a good way to kick off the year for them and really see some of that class bonding. Even though they've been together 12 years, it's nice to have that class bonding for their senior year. So it's a really good event. So looking forward to that. And then welcoming our kindergarten and preschool the following week on Tuesday. We'll go back after the long weekend. So busy couple of weeks, but all good. Great to have the kids back and stuff.
But I thought the meetings were great.
Yeah, I
I mean,
did
I
too.
thought the speakers, you guys were genuine.
Right, yeah. Good positive energy.
Yeah, no, I think, and just I love Dr. Marston, I wrote it down, but one of your key messages that was like, the kids come first.
Yeah.
Work hard, and take care of yourself. I thought that was just in the heart.
Yeah, sure.
It's like, we are all one team. So I think that was excellent. One item I think is the MASC conference in November. I think Michelle had shared that. That is funded by the district if we want to go. And then typically it's out in Hyannis. I think it starts
Wednesday,
Wednesday.
the 8th through Friday the 10th.
Wednesday through Friday. You don't always, you know, I think it's, really try hard to get there at least for a day. I think there's some repeat sessions, but it is at one time a year, all kinds of school committees across the state are together, superintendents across the state are together. Goes that on, it's great information. It took me a year or two to get out there. But so that keep your eye on that. You can sign up, you can get early birds.
Yeah, you know, check in Andrew.
Yeah, just Andrew will take care of it if you want to go. Just let her know. We'll register everybody and.
I haven't gone to one yet, so that's actually a good one.
I went last year, it's amazing, highly recommend.
Is that joint one with MASF?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm definitely
Yeah,
not going then.
No too many people.
You can
Sometimes,
just
like,
do a day?
I think
Like,
they have
yes.
just Friday option, yeah.
It is one day, and sometimes it's like, hey, I can't go, I can't commit 3 days. One
3 days,
day,
I
or,
don't go 3 days. It's a lot.
I just can't commit overnight.
3 days is a lot.
Single mom
yeah,
boys.
no, understood. But I think even getting out there for the morning, I found it to be worthwhile.
Oh my. You be running the joint. You don't want to put my kid in the room. He'll take over.
I think it's, at least we get out to Cape Cod. Last is future agenda items. I think we're going to have a more structured conversation around school start times and what that process looks like.
Dr. Marsden, can we sit sometime, I don't know if we would have a chance to do it before the 14th, if we want to do it for the next, but we want to do an update on the enrollments.
Mhm.
So when do you think, when will we have the information? We need to sit
So
and talk
October
about that.
1 is when we certify the enrollment.
Okay,
So right after that.
so for the October meeting. Okay,
We have 77 new students starting on Wednesday, 55 new families.
okay, great. So
We have
we'll
an email
plan
going
that.
out to all parents tomorrow afternoon, and I like that.
Primary, elementary or secondary?
Mostly elementary, but all over. Yeah, we have some all over.
It's been a busy real estate season.
Not much out there, really, you know. I think once it's on, it's gone, so.
Yeah.
It's not like it's a lot of supply out there.
Okay, and the next meeting is September 14th. Which should be good. And other than that, I think we're done. 1 hour and 23 minutes.
Not bad.
And I was chatty. No, but I think there's some good topics. That's why, but I will cease doing that right now. So provided somebody can raise a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.